Welcome to the 2019 Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show. It is a joy for us to have this opportunity to meet so many of our wonderful professional educators as we highlight the wonderful work that those teachers in St. Lucie Public Schools are doing to make our district a bigger, brighter, and better place for the wonderful students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. And at this time, to start us off, we have Miss Gina Clark, who's the Dynamic Teacher of the Year over at Dan McCarty Middle School with us. Ms. Clark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. Thank you.
She's brought along with her the very proud and dynamic principal as well, Miss Lisa Sullivan, who's the principal at Dan McCarty. Ms. Sullivan, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Ladies, it is always a joy for us to film this show because, one, it gives us an opportunity to say congratulations to you because we also celebrate the work that you're doing as your selection as the Teacher of the Year. In addition to that, it's a prime opportunity for us to introduce some of our wonderful professional educators to our viewers so they'll get a glimpse at those persons that are teaching students in our district every day, and they're just a small portion of them that represent the 2,100 plus other professional educators in our district. So for those two reasons, we are excited to again do the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show for 2019. But Ms. Clark, there are some viewers that are watching who just don't know who the amazing Miss Gina Clark is. So would you give us a little bit about your bio?
Well, thank you, Dr. Perry. My bio. Well, I came to teaching actually later in life. I attended IRSC, so local. Been teaching for 9 years, and my entire career has been at Dan McCarty. I'm very proud of that fact as well. I am the mother of 3 boys, married 25 years, and it's a little bit about me.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan? Everybody knows who Lisa
No,
Sullivan
thank you.
is, the very dynamic diva. You see the little bling on
Always
her
a
shirt.
Always a
Always
Introduce yourself, please, Ms. Sullivan.
I am the principal at Dan McCarty, and I have worked with Gina now. This is our 3rd year working together, and I have loved every single minute of it. She is a dedicated professional, a wonderful, amazing literacy coach, and just a true educator.
So, Miss Clark, your job at Dan McCarty is the literacy coach.
Yes.
What else? What does that entail?
That entails a little bit of everything, to be honest with you. My background is in special education, and I've also been trained ESE as well as I have a reading endorsement. So with all of these components and all of these pieces, my job and may differ depending on the day. I work.
Oh, it does differ on the day.
It does change daily. But I do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, to be honest with you. My primary focus is always our students and promoting literacy within the campus or on the campus, as well as with the adults that work on the campus, having them implement those strategies into their classrooms, whether it be content area, reading, or writing teachers. So with that being said, behaviors, things of that nature, helping develop language skills for ESOL students and ELLs. These are all things that I work on daily.
So those are things that you work on daily. But if I were to come to Dan McCarty tomorrow, what would I catch you doing? What would I see?
What would you see? Well, you would probably see me in motion quite a bit, to be honest with you. A lot of my job involves being in classrooms, supporting teachers, supporting students, pulling small groups, working one-on-one with students when necessary, working one-on-one with teachers when they request or when that's needed. So really what you'll see is a lot of me just being involved with the faculty and with the students within the classrooms throughout the campus.
So being the literacy coach, having an ESE background, that means you were probably in a self-contained classroom or a contained classroom. What's your favorite part of what you're doing now?
My favorite part, I would have to say, is working with the students and having that opportunity to work in smaller groups with students, as well as with adult learners. Something that I take pride in is being able to differentiate, being able to scaffold. It comes easier to me with a reading background, with an exceptional student background. Sometimes for content area teachers, that's not something that they're used to doing. So to infuse the literacy strategies, to infuse those components into a science classroom, let's say, or into a social studies classroom and really get kids excited, meeting them where they're at, and really get them excited about the content because it's something that they're understanding and processing, is really a passion.
So, Ms. Sullivan, you get to see the magic happen every day.
I do.
If I came on campus to visit you and we were walking around and we ran into Ms. Clark, tell me it is what I would see, or what you see, feel, hear?
Well, we'd be running after her.
Okay.
Because that's kind of how she does it. But we would see her exactly as she explained it, with teachers, with students, in the hallways, in the lunchroom, in the car line, in the front office staff. She has made us true believers that we are all reading teachers. And when you have that mindset and you get that shift, you believe you can teach reading. The kids believe in her. She's just not a teacher, she's a leader on our campus, as well as in our community. She takes care of our kids. She's there for them. They know that. They trust her. She listens to them.
So, Ms. Clark, during the course of your day, there's a lot that goes on. But because you have been selected as the Teacher of the Year, you automatically become Ambassador for Education. When you're talking to new teachers, what do you say to them?
The most important thing I usually state to them is, first of all, not to worry. It's an overwhelming job. It's a very involved job. There's so many pieces you cannot learn in a classroom when you come to the field of education. One of the most important is that student relationship, building a relationship with your students. When they care about you and know that you care about them, they will work harder for you and they will try harder. And that's been my experience at Dan McCarty with the staff that I've worked with. And I just truly, truly feel that as a new teacher, it's very easy to get overwhelmed with all the moving parts and the components.
Yes.
But when you really boil it down, it's about caring about kids and really helping to support students and children. And that's really the most important thing. If you keep your eye on that, you will succeed.
So you also have to speak to parents about many different things.
Yes.
But what do you say to parents in your conversations to help them ensure that their child would be a success?
Coming from a literacy coach standpoint, of course, my first response is always, do they read at home? Do you have books at home? Do you have access to things of that nature at home? If they don't, I give them to them. And Ms. Sullivan is a huge supporter of that. If there's anything a student needs, we give it to them. And the reason for that is that some parents don't really know what they need to do at home to support their students. So when speaking to parents, I really try to focus on what your student can do and what I know and they know their student can do. And we can get there together.
There's a lot of great things going on at Dan McCarty, so there are visitors coming all the time. And again, remember, you're the ambassador for education. So the superintendent comes, maybe with some lawmakers or the other school board members. What's your message to them?
I guess my message to them would be, as first and foremost a teacher, I know that this is a very, very passionate job. People obviously do not come to this field of teaching to make money. They come to it because they care about students and they want to empower students, children, and our world in general. So I think that my message would be the appreciation piece, just more understanding. We know that teachers work above and beyond the hours that they're contracted to work. We know that teachers go home and work long, late hours, time not spent with their family, time spent with other people's children. So I think that my message would be, I see you. I know that teachers are working hard, I see you. I know that you are putting your all into this profession, I see you. And I think that that is something that I would want to project and for other people to know. It's a challenging job, it's such a rewarding one.
Ms. Sullivan, to be selected the Teacher of the Year, we know that that person is heavily involved in all of the activities that make school work. What other activities would we see Ms. Clark involved in at Dan McCarty?
You'd see her involved in everything. She's an active member of our SAC. She's been part of our literacy council. She's on the faculty council. She's on the leadership team. She is the sole supporter of our new teachers, and we have quite a few new teachers this year, and they rely on her every day. like I said, she's just the integral part of Dan McCarty. Everything we do, Gina's a part of. She's got her footprint on, her handprint on. She's amazing.
Ms. Clark, you said you came to teaching late. When did you first fall in love with teaching?
I honestly think I first fell in love with it the first year. I had my own classroom. I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by other new teachers. And I put a welcome mat in my doorway, in the hallway. And I told my students that I just took a chance, I took a gamble. It was nothing that I learned or saw anywhere else. And I said, when you walk across that mat, you're in my life forever. And I think that having that being said, the first moment, the first day I taught, I think it set the tone for my classroom. And I truly, truly believe that that helped me. Just that statement alone, you're in my life forever. The students will come through the car line now, and I will see them dropping off their little brothers and dropping off their little sisters and having conversations with them that they are in college, completed college, in a program, doing something wonderful with their life. It reminds me that, okay, that's why I did this. That's why I fell in love with this job. I truly, truly fell in love with it the first year that I taught.
Ms. Sullivan, describe Mrs. Clark for me using 3 adjectives and tell me why you chose those 3.
Passionate, dedicated, and kind. I think kindness is like one of her biggest, best adjective I can use to describe her, because I think kindness is just so important, and she just exhibits it every day. It's like a model for kindness to children, to staff, to anyone who walks across the Dan McCarty campus or has walked across the Dan McCarty campus. You know, she's responsible for the Giving Tree, where she sponsored many families for Christmas. She coordinates those efforts. The Grace Packs for students. There's no feat, no effort that she would not undertake for the betterment of Dan McCarty and of our students, past, present, and future.
Passionate, dedicated, and kind. Great examples of what makes up a teacher of the year. You also told me that you came late to teaching.
Yes.
What made you decide to come to this wonderful profession? What was the spark?
The profession always fascinated me. I had just spent time raising my own children at home. I was fortunate enough to do that. So I wasn't sure for a while what I wanted to be when I grew up, to be honest with you, Dr. Ferry. So I had gone to college previously, but hadn't received a degree. So I went to IRSC, actually not sure what I wanted to do. They mentioned that they had started a new program for teaching for special education. And I said, you know what? I don't know what it was, but at that moment when I saw that, I said, that's what I want to do. And it just pulled me in. Just completely absorbed me and consumed me. And from that point on, I just fell in love with the profession.
Every day you go back in, tell me, what fuels you?
You know, I'd have to say the kids. Just being able to see their faces on a daily basis, and teachers will understand this, all of us in education will. You worry about them when they're not there, when you're on a break. It really is something that surprises you, how invested you get. So, you know, the biggest thing for me is and always will be the students.
So, Ms. Sullivan, what makes Mrs. Clark the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I can't even limit to 1 or 2 things, because she's just such an asset to our profession. And you kept saying that word, ambassador. She is the ambassador for teaching, for learning, as a lifelong learner. Just the whole package. She exhibits St. Lucie County, every child, every day, because that's what she believes. When she says what fuels her, when you asked her what fuels her, she comes in every day with that passion for learning and for student achievement, for teamwork, and for building capacity.
Ms. Clark, when will you know that you have been a success?
I don't know if you ever really know that. I mean, I think that you just continuously strive to it. I don't know if there will be a moment where I say I've achieved, because I feel like I'm always trying to achieve. That will not stop. As a lifelong learner, I think that that's something that's important and near and dear to my heart that I don't know if I'll ever feel that I am a success. I think that that's it. I'm always going to be a work in progress, and hopefully a good one.
As a literacy coach, how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
Well, with standards-based instruction, the goal is college and career ready. But when you are working with students that are working sometimes below and far below grade level, the goal is always to scaffold and support, to differentiate, to spark that passion in them, that interest in them, to keep them interested long enough that you can teach them and you can motivate them. And in terms of being a literacy coach, I think that I look to find ways to engage the students first and foremost. Because if they are not engaged, if they are not interested, they, at middle school level, are a finicky bunch. So they may not stay with you, stay the course. So I think that the engagement piece is huge. Looking for materials and resources, as well as ways to get across that message that maybe don't seem like learning at the time, but it is. So when you scaffold and when you differentiate, I believe that you get closer and closer to that grade level where you would like them to be, which in essence is a preparation for college and career.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs.
The world needs more kindness. The world needs more kindness. I think that that is definitely something we all need to remind ourselves of every day and to practice every day and to put forth into wherever we are every single day.
Gina Clark, it's been a pleasure having this opportunity to speak with you. Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year, Dan McCarty. Ms. Sullivan, thank you for coming and hanging out with us as well. And Ms. Clark, continue to make sure that they all know that they're in your life forever. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
We are so pleased at this time to welcome to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show for 2019 the wonderful Miss Tammy Gannon, who's the dynamic Teacher of the Year at Oak Hammock K-8 School. Welcome, Ms. Gannon.
Thank you.
She's brought along with her our great friend, Ms. Brooke Wigington, who's the awesome principal at Oak Hammock. Ms. Wigington, welcome to you also.
Thank you for having us today.
Ladies, I just like to put it out there to everyone that I'm speaking with. We are excited, ecstatic really about having this opportunity to do this Teacher of the Year celebration show every year, basically for two reasons. Number one, it gives us a chance to say congratulations to you and to celebrate teaching. In addition to that, it gives us a chance to introduce to our many viewers some of the dynamic educators here in St. Lucie County, because there's some 2,100 plus professional educators, and these teachers that are the Teachers of the Year represent us all. So it gives us a chance to give our viewers just a peek into the staffs that we have here working with our students. But Ms. Gannon, there may be someone watching that hadn't had the privilege of meeting you. So would you please just give us a little about your bio?
Sure. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana.
New Orleans.
Yes, I moved here 4 years ago from Louisiana. I have my bachelor's degree in I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Master's degree.
In elementary education, and then I have my leadership degree from my master's in educational leadership.
Cool, cool. Well, we're glad that you came this way to the real South.
Yes.
Even though we like New Orleans. Okay, yes. Ms. Wigington, a little bit about you, please.
I'm in my 4th year at Oak Hammock. Prior to that, I was an assistant principal at Northport and Port St. Lucie High. And I've been with the county now going on, 14 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Long time, Ms. Wigington.
It's a great county.
So, Ms. Gannon, tell us, what do you teach at Oak Hammock?
I teach 8th grade pre-algebra, algebra 1, and geometry.
So you're the math whiz.
I am.
Okay. So I decide tomorrow that I need to go to where the rubber really meets the road, and I drop by Oak Hammock and Miss Wiggins and say, let's go to Miss Gannon's class. Cool. We walk in. What do I see happening?
Yeah, you see mathematicians working nonstop. You will see them engaged heavily in whatever math we are doing. We walk around the classroom a lot, doing different things. We'd use interactive notebooks, cutting and pasting, just doing math.
Great. So what's the favorite part of your teaching day?
I think the favorite part of my teaching day is actually teaching geometry. Miss Wigginton got me into teaching geometry when I moved here in Florida. I love the shapes and the attributes of geometry itself. I love my students because their brains are the different, as an 8th grade student taking 10th grade math, their brains just think out of the box. They think differently, and I love getting into their brains and delving into them.
So we're in the math class all day with you, but we know that we have to do things that purposefully engage our students in the learning. How do you plan engagement in the math room?
In the math classroom is really hard because students don't like math, especially my pre-algebra kids. I try to get them up and around the classroom, walking around, doing different things. We use iPads a lot in my class. We use QR codes, getting them up during, I put math problems all around the classroom to where the kids can go up and answer that one problem and then go to another problem and so forth. We use interactive notebooks, like I said before, that we just cut and paste it, which gets them engaged as well.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
I did not. I did not realize I wanted to be one until my first semester in college. When I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be, my sister just all of a sudden said, "Hey, why don't you be a teacher? You love kids." I used to babysit a lot, so kind of geared me towards that way.
When you look back, do you think that there might have been someone that actually inspired you when you think about it?
When I look back, honestly, it's I think my 4th grade math teacher as well was one of the inspirations for myself, where I really did not understand math in general as being a 4th grade student, and she broke it down to me, where now it's helping me break it down to my students as well.
So, Ms. Wigginton, you have the opportunity to watch that magic occur every day. When you walk in, what do you see? What do you hear?
Well, I'm going to have to repeat some of what she said. She's very innovating with the technology. She's used a lot of the newer things like QR codes. Kids are highly engaged in math. Even students who in previous years said, "I hate math," you go into her room and they're excelling, they're succeeding, and they're communicating on a level where it's a lot of just that math discourse that's happening.
So math can often be a tough subject for students as their perception because they haven't had the dynamic Ms. Gannon as their teacher. But parents get a little concerned. What conversations do you have with parents to help them ensure that their child will be successful?
I make sure that the parents know and the children as well understand that it's a work in progress, that they have to have confidence within themselves before they can do anything. And I make sure that the parents are at home asking questions about what happened in math today, what's going on in math, so that they can help out as well for class.
As the teacher of the year, you have to also speak to first-year teachers, new teachers. What advice do you offer them?
I would offer them to never give up. The first couple of years will be rough and tough, no matter if you've actually been teaching for 5-6 years. We went to a new state, as I did. It was really tough. My team members worked really well with me, my principal as well. They just had me. I went to her all the time, and she, "Tammy, it's okay, and you got this." And just make sure you understand and take care of what they have to say.
Okay, again, Ms. Gannon, as the teacher of the year, you automatically become one of our ambassadors for education. I know at Oak Hammock there are a lot of visitors that come by. It could be a state representative. It could be the superintendent or school board members. What message about education would you give to them? What would be your message?
I think it would be don't take it for granted, basically. A lot of people, I think, these days, and including a couple of the community, take teachers for granted as well as education. Just don't take it for granted. Everyone needs it for us to be able to be on the same page.
So, Ms. Wigginton, we know that the teacher of the year is heavily involved in other aspects of the total operation of the school. What do we see Ms. Gannon involved with?
Ms. Gannon is someone who is early on campus, but also is committed to a lot of our after-school programs. She is our Challenge Camp coordinator, and she runs all of our after-school camps, and she facilitates that. In addition to that, her commitment to her students is also seen, and she runs her own tutoring for her algebra and geometry students. And she also opens up the algebra to the other 8th grade students and 7th grade as well. So she's very open to assisting and helping others. Another thing that she did this year is we reestablished our National Junior Honor Society, and she is co-sponsor for that. And one of the first things she did is she actually went out of her way and found some opportunities for our students to do some volunteer work locally. And so she is definitely has that global mindset. She thinks about the community and what's going to best benefit our students.
So, Ms. Gannon, how do you see what you're doing, this math work, preparing students to be college and career ready?
I think for 8th grade math, it sets the bar for the higher grade levels, for high school grade level for math. If they don't understand my pre-algebra class, then they're not going to understand Algebra 1 and so forth. So I think those classes impact for the future and for college algebra.
Thinking back to the time that you've been here, first couple of years, all the way to Teacher of the Year, when did you truly first fall in love with teaching?
When I taught in Louisiana for elementary, I really didn't feel teaching was for me. And then when I moved to middle school in Louisiana as well, I liked it, but it wasn't honestly until I got here in Florida for 8th grade geometry. I think the passion for just the geometry course itself was what teaching's really for me, where I really felt that was the better part for me.
So, Ms. Wiggins, describe Ms. Gannon for me using 3 adjectives, and make sure you explain why those 3.
It's difficult to think of just 3, but one of the first one that comes to mind is her dedication. She goes back to that geometry class, and it was brand new to her, and she really built and learned geometry on her own. In addition to this year, she's very dedicated to the students, and not just hers, but to all students on our campus, which it shows with success for all the students that she tutors and helps. Next, I would have to go to, she's very passionate about just teaching. She cares a lot about her instruction, and she goes out of her way to find unique ways to engage the students. And this also carries over into her work as department head with the math department. So she works really well with the team. And lastly, it's going to be creative. When you go into her classroom, it's engaging. She's finding ways to instructionally inspire the students and make those connections for math, especially for students who struggle with math.
So, Ms. Gannon, think about the work that you do every day. Think about education here in Florida, as well as in Louisiana. What do you think is the soul of education?
I think the soul of education would be what everyone brings to education itself, such as Ms. Wiggins and myself, the community leaders, whatever everyone brings to the community, to the school, would be the best thing for the soul of education. It helps build it.
When will you know that you are a success?
I don't think I'll ever know if I'm ever a success. Maybe at the end of every year when those test scores come in, but I'm not truly a success if those kids did not meet standards for their assessments.
Tell me then, with what you do and the extra miles you go, what drives you?
I think mainly my family, for one, drives me a lot. I think my students as well, just seeing how they came to me as a level 1 and they're leaving me as a level 4 or 5. I think that continually drives me from year to year.
As an educator, what do you think has been your greatest impact?
I think the greatest impact is possibly me able to break down the mathematics for the students to where they can understand them, and just the relationships that I can build with those students in order for them to be successful.
Ms. Wigington, what makes Ms. Gannon the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
When it comes down to it, it's definitely her instruction, but I would also say one of the key things is her ability to just build relationships, positive relationships with all of her students. I keep going back to she's able to help kids succeed who have not succeeded in math before. She shows some of the highest learning gains every year with some of those kids who struggle. Her passing rate is amazing, but it's her commitment to her students as well as the commitment to the school as a whole. So she carries what she learns and what she knows within that classroom, and she helps others succeed. So she's definitely moved from that extra piece of being that classroom leader to now she's being that department head, and she's somebody people go to, which is important.
Ms. Gannon, what inspires you?
I think my students inspire me every day. Like Miss Wigginton was saying, they come to me unsuccessful or level 1, and then I can actually truly get them passionate about math, learning math, loving math at the end of my class. I think that just as in general helps me, keeps going and inspires me a lot.
You talked about that 4th grade teacher. What would you say to your 4th grade self?
Make sure you're the best person that you can be in class. Just don't take it for granted as well. To make sure you are focused and doing what you need to be as a 4th grade student.
We talked about how you took this challenge on to be the geometry teacher. When you, even in geometry class or your other classes, what do you think has been your biggest accomplishment?
I think personally is relearning the material myself and being able to explain the material to the students where they're actually able to understand and to be successful.
Ms. Wigginton, is there anything else that you want to add about your wonderful Teacher of the Year?
Just that she is one of those teachers that, you know, she shines bright in the classroom, outside of the classroom, but her commitment is something that is just astounding, and her commitment to OCAMIC, our students, and her approach to instruction is something that we hope all can get to. She's just phenomenal in the classroom as well.
Couple of more things, Ms. Gannon, please. Finish this phrase for me. The world needs.
I think the world needs to learn from each other, from every individual in itself.
As an educator, final question. What are you most hopeful about?
I'm most hopeful about the future for my students, for young kids today, and hopefully that they'll be at some part with their education and grow from it.
Well, Ms. Gannon, again, congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for OCAMIC. Ms. Wigginton, thank you for joining us. We want you to continue to spread that hope also to your students as we do our best to work together, partner, and make St. Lucie Schools a bigger, brighter, and better place for those students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
It's our pleasure to welcome to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show the awesome Mr. Michael Davis, who is the Teacher of the Year at Lincoln Park Academy. Mr. Davis, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. Perry.
He's brought along with him the very proud principal of Lincoln Park Academy, Mr. Henry Santabria. Mr. Santabria, also welcome to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here today.
Well, we're excited, Mr. Santabria, to have you and Mr. Davis join us, basically for two very important reasons, if you ask me. Number one, it gives us an opportunity to just say congratulations to all of those persons that have been selected as the Teacher of the Year at their specific sites. But two, it gives us a chance to introduce to our viewing audience some of the fantastic teachers that are working in St. Lucie County to make our district, to make the world a better, bigger, and brighter place for those students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. And we know that Mr. Davis represents some 2,100 plus other professional educators. So it gives us a chance to celebrate as well as let our public see some of those dynamic teachers that we have working with us. And Mr. Davis, there may be some people who had the awesome opportunity to meet Mr. Michael Davis. So would you please give us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I am a product of St. Lucie Schools.
Totally awesome.
I graduated from Lincoln Park Academy in 2008. I was really involved with music. I was lucky to have Mr. Santabria as a teacher when I was at Lincoln Park Academy. I went to Florida State University where I studied economics and music as well. And this is my 5th year teaching at Lincoln Park Academy.
Great, great. It's so neat when we have an opportunity to sit around the table and have some homegrown talent that comes back home to work in the district that they matriculated through, and in essence, again, making it an awesome place for the students that are currently studying here. Mr. Santabria, just in case someone hadn't had the chance to meet Mr. Santabria, introduce yourself, sir.
Well, as you had already mentioned, I am the proud principal of Lincoln Park Academy. I've been at Lincoln Park Academy for 4 years. This is my 5th year as the principal, having that honor, and I greatly appreciate it. I call Lincoln Park Academy my home because that's where I started out in this profession. As Mr. Davis mentioned, I was one of his teachers. I was actually his 9th grade English teacher and had that honor of serving him at that time. But I started my profession, my education career there at Lincoln Park Academy, taught for several years, became the IB coordinator, became an administrator, assistant principal, and then moved on up to become the principal after I did a 2-year stint at Treasure Coast High School.
Welcome, gentlemen. So, 8th grade science at Lincoln Park Academy, your home. I decide tomorrow that I just need to get out and go visit where the rubber meets the road. I walk into Michael Davis's 8th grade science class at Lincoln Park Academy. What would I see happening?
Well, you're going to see a group of kids who hopefully are happy to be there. They are going to be working diligently on astronomy concepts at this point in the year. Earlier in the year, you may have walked in on a chemistry lab where we're doing physical changes or chemical changes and state of matter changes. But at this point of the year, we're really thinking about deep space and trying to spark that imagination in the students to think about how the Earth interacts with the sun and the moon, and then more broadly in other planets. My students do a lot of writing. I teach gifted students, about half and half gifted and then grade level students. So you'll find that my students expect to do a fair amount of writing, and that we do a lot of analysis of the writing, and that we focus a lot on verbiage and making sure that they are demonstrating mastery of the content through writing, more than simply multiple choice or true false.
I know that science can naturally be engaging for students when you're talking about the Earth and the sun interacting with each other and then broadening that out. But how do you purposefully plan engagement for your instructional purposes?
For my students, I like to get as many hands-on opportunities as possible. So when we're talking about the sun, earth, and moon, down to bringing racquetballs and ping pong balls and flashlights and turning off the lights and modeling some of these things. Labs are some of my favorite things to do because the students really change their attitude and they become professional when they're given the opportunity to do hands-on learning activities. It's one of my favorite things about science in general, is that many people look back on science as one of their favorites. So it's a responsibility as well to make sure that the students have enough opportunities to move around and to manipulate things with their hands.
We also know that with the students that we're teaching today, we have to also use technology because it's just a natural part of their world. How do you purposefully use technology for instruction?
Absolutely. We have I have several programs that I like to utilize where students will use cell phones to answer questions that'll show up on the projector. I'm lucky to have a lot of technology embedded into my classroom. I'm lucky that I work in a school that's fortunate enough to have that. So we use cell phones a lot. We will go onto the computers a lot. There are a lot of wonderful models, especially for astronomy, where students can manipulate some of the factors that go into orbital rotations and things like that. So I like to get my students on the computers using cell phones as much as possible. I like to utilize, for things like science fair, some of the, like Canvas, some of the new Microsoft suites that have been introduced so that students can turn a lot of these things in electronically at home and get used to using that technology, because even in my graduate coursework right now, I mean, it is exclusively online. So I again see it as a responsibility to not only use the technology that the students bring to school, but to push the students a little further to use technology that I'm confident they will be using later in their educational careers.
Mr. Santabria, as a very proud principal at Lincoln Park Academy, making sure I say that right, you have the opportunity to see the magic happen in Mr. Davis's room every day. Tell me, when you visit, what is it that you see, hear, and or feel?
Well, what I see is a group of students that are becoming inquirers. Because it's a science class, they're wanting to know more and more, and Mr. Davis brings that out in all of his students through the different engagement activities that he provides them during the course of the lesson. And as he said, I noticed that he uses a lot of the technology, and he's leveraging that because that's what they're going to be using as they matriculate through high school and then hopefully through college. So they're doing a lot of hands-on things, and as I stated earlier, you know, they're using those inquiry skills to learn more and more and more about the concepts that he's teaching.
Mr. Davis, as the Teacher of the Year, what would your advice be to new teachers?
To new teachers, I would advise two things. One, set the tone through your own behavior, by doing what you know you're supposed to do. Keep organized. But primarily, the best advice I could give a new teacher is be calm and friendly. I heard a lot of advice when I started about being tough at the beginning, and I found that I caused myself a lot of problems for being sort of unnecessarily hard on students. When, you know, what I learned is that you can get as much, if not more, out of the students by redirecting them positively, and to don't let your negative emotions or what you think a classroom should look or sound like get in the way of making positive relationships with your students and setting up that confidence that your students have in you, that you will treat them fairly and kindly, even if they may go astray or may make decisions that are not the ones that we would like them to make.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
I went back and forth a little bit. In high school, I wanted to be a teacher. In college, I kind of went back and forth, but now you won't find me anywhere else than a school.
Cool.
I love it.
So, got to ask this question,
Yeah.
Mr. Davis. Who inspired you?
Absolutely. Well, you know, primarily my parents. I had a lot of great influences as teachers. You know, I had a lot of great teachers at Lincoln Park Academy. Mr. Santabria definitely being one of them. But my parents, I grew up in a household where I have an administrator and a teacher. And so a lot of the dinner time conversations were sort of the back and forth and the ins and outs and of what it's like working at a school. And beyond my parents, I have several other family members who are career teachers. So I feel like I fell into it a little bit.
Cool. Mr. Davis, Mr. Santabria, describe Mr. Davis for me using 3 adjectives and tell me why you chose those 3.
Well, the first one would have to be energetic. He's young, he has so much energy in him, and he's always willing to step up and do whatever it takes to meet the mission. Enthusiastic. You know, there's such an enthusiasm that he brings with him that it actually spreads to the students. And he makes them enthusiastic about the topics that he's teaching and the lessons that he's teaching and the activities that he's working on with the students. And then he's inquisitive. You know, he's always seeking out more knowledge, new knowledge, and trying really to perfect his craft. And so when I say those 3 things about him, there's obviously more that I could say about him, but then I'd be here for a much longer time and you would have to kick me off the set.
I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that.
But I say that because knowing him in 9th grade, he exhibited those same traits as a student. You know, he was energetic, he was enthusiastic, and he was always asking questions and wanting more. And I see that now as an adult in the classroom, teaching those young minds.
So, Mr. Davis, as the Teacher of the Year, you naturally will be called upon at school advisory council, parent-teacher meetings, or performances to have a word about what's good, what's right, about education, about Lincoln Park Academy. The superintendent may come and school board members may visit. What would your message be to them?
You have to take the opportunity every day to enjoy the job, or else it becomes really difficult. So that means regardless of how you feel in the morning or the night before, when you're there, you owe it to the students to bring the hospitality or the Disney mindset to working with these kids. And being fair and content master is important, but most importantly, kids come to school to enjoy being with you. And that's the most important thing that I can say is be genuine to the students and focus on just trying to get them to have a good time, to make school something that they look forward to going to.
I know you come from a family of educators, but when did you really, truly, first fall in love with teaching?
By the end of my first year, I was absolutely enthralled. Obviously, you know, a lot of people told me at the beginning that your first year would be tough, which it was, and there were some obstacles to overcome. But by the end of the first year, the positivity that I got in return from my students was just overwhelming. And I felt like I really belonged. Whereas at the beginning, it's nerve-wracking. You're in front of a group of strangers and you have this authority, and it's just, it just makes you sweat. But by now, I'm confident that I can connect with my students. I love connecting even with especially with the difficult students. I love being that positive, calm influence that just keep an even keel with the kids and try and enjoy it as much as possible.
So, Mr. Santabria, what makes Mr. Davis the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
Well, I think going back to those adjectives that I used earlier, I just think that it's his enthusiasm for the profession as a whole. When you look at what he brings to the table and his love and passion for the profession, I think that is inspiring. And, you know, that's what he does. He aspires to inspire.
How do you see yourself, Mr. Davis, preparing your students to be college and or career ready?
Well, primarily it's holding them to account fairly, making sure that every day that they come to school, that to demonstrate that I take the opportunity to plan something engaging, standards-based, and that I expect them to produce every day. It's the same as, regardless of how I feel in the morning, regardless of how they feel in the morning, there's an expectation in my room that you're gonna do something every day. And that I believe that that's really important to success moving forward, is that you are opportunistic every day in your career.
As the Teacher of the Year at Lincoln Park Academy, you gotta be doing something right to receive that honor. What do you think has been your greatest impact?
I think that I'm lucky to build relationships with people, with my coworkers and students, and that I smile a lot. I wave to everybody. I don't like meeting strangers. I don't meet strangers. You know, I like to introduce myself. I like to be helpful. I come from the hotel business, is where I started before teaching, and you don't just let people walk by. And I don't let kids walk by without a hello, and same with adults. And adults need help as much as anybody, and they need a calm presence as well.
So as an educator, what are you most hopeful about?
I hope that we can, while continuing with the school accountability movement and keeping all of those things in place in terms of making, you know, the Common Core and things of that nature, but that we can broaden students to a wider array of opportunities, from music, vocational skills. I think that all students should be held responsible for the Common Core standards, and that it is our responsibility to make sure that they meet those standards. But some of my favorite parts of being in St. Lucie County were the opportunities that I had to do music and et cetera. And so I think that making sure that students have the broadest range of possibilities.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs.
The world needs happy students. Students who are ready to come to school, students who like school, students who have positive role models in their lives, and students who are ready to take on the challenges that they face.
Congratulations, Mr. Davis, on your selection as the Teacher of the
Thank
Year.
you so much.
Ms. Sanabria, thank you for joining us as well.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
I just ask that you continue to be energetic, enthusiastic, and inquisitive, the same kind of student that you were. Show that to those students as we all do our best to continue to make St. Lucie Public Schools a bigger, brighter, and better place for those students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we were walking to school.
I started thinking about lunch. Mom packed me turkey and cheese.
She's
I really want
smart.
cheese pizza.
Sometimes her mind wanders.
We should have a sleepover.
I remember saying, Laura?
I think I heard Mom say something.
The sign says don't walk.
Sometimes it's so overwhelming.
I really hope she doesn't
I
have
really
another
hope I
bad
don't
day
have
at
another
school
bad day at
today.
school today.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
It's our honor to welcome to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show at this time the wonderful Miss Ashley June, who's the dynamic Teacher of the Year at White City Elementary School. Miss June, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Joining her also is the very awesome, proud principal at White City, Miss Felicia Nixon. Nixon, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. Good to be here.
Thank you, ladies. It's a joy for us to have this opportunity to sit and speak with you. As I told everyone else, mainly for two reasons. One, it gives us the opportunity to tell you congratulations and to celebrate your selection as the Teacher of the Year, because it gives us an opportunity to celebrate education. In addition to that, it gives us a chance to introduce to many of our viewers some of the dynamic teachers that we have that are working with students every day here in St. Lucie Public Schools. You represent some 2,100 plus professional educators, and it's good just to let our viewers see those of us that are having that impact daily in our community. Ms. June, I know that there's somebody who's watching and saying, who is Miss Ashley June? So would you please give us just a little bit about your bio so that they'll get to know you?
Yes, hello, my name is Ashley June. This is my 11th year of teaching. I graduated from Florida State University with my bachelor's, and then from there I received my master's at University of Phoenix. I'm from Martin County, so.
Well, we're so glad you came home.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Nixon, and just in case someone has not had the opportunity to meet you as well, give us a little bit about your bio.
Well, it's good to be here, Dr. Perry. I'm Felicia Nixon, proud principal of White City Elementary School. And this is my 3rd year as the principal of White City Elementary. However, I have served 15 years in all as a principal, and I've taught here in this district. I've taught elementary is my background in terms of teaching, and it's just wonderful to be here with you and to sit here and have this opportunity to discuss Miss Ashley June, our Teacher of the Year.
Yes, Ms. June. It's great to have this opportunity. So, Ms. June, let's start off by telling our viewers, what do you teach? What grade?
Well, I'm the interventionist at White City Elementary, so I work with grades K through 5 with Tier 2 and Tier 3 bottom quartile students to help them make learning gains, continuously focusing on the student achievement to increase their academic level where they're currently at.
So you say the interventionist. Are you intervening in math or in English, or a combination of subjects?
Combination, but primarily our focus is ELA.
Okay.
So yes, primarily.
So if I happen to say I need to go by and see whether rubber meets the road tomorrow morning, and I stop by White City and Ms. Nixon brings me into the class where Ashley June is, what would I see happening?
Small group instruction, engagement of students, higher functioning questionings, students engaged.
So we also know that as an individual, students come and kind of go in
Yes.
your area. Not there with you all day long.
No.
So how do you purposely plan to engage them as they're coming and going? How do you use engagement as an instructional strategy?
I focus on where they are and where they need to go, and continuously to motivate them, to give them encouragement, to let them know they can make the learning gains that they need, and making sure the students own up to where they actually are, So it helps them have a purpose on, okay, I'm here, but this is where I need to go. So the students are really motivated when they see that they are making learning gains.
What's your favorite part of teaching?
Actually making connections with the students, building relationships with them. For me personally, it was always my teachers that inspired me and gave me that motivation to kind of, they believed in me. So I just want to give back to them as well. So that's what I do daily with the students. There's not anyone that passes by me that they know that Miss June is gonna speak. If there's not a smile, I say, hey, wait a minute, where's my smile at? And they kind of chuckle, and that just brings their mindset, because all of the students deal with stuff on a daily basis that we don't know about. I myself have went through a lot when I was growing up, and it was always my teachers that, it was just that positive, motivational little sayings, and they didn't even know that that was the highlight of my day, and that continued to inspire me throughout my years. So,
Ms. Nixon, you have an opportunity to see the magic happen every day.
Absolutely, yes.
Tell us what it is that you see, feel, hear when you visit Ms. June and see her working.
Well, there's lots of bragging that takes place in her classroom, Dr. Perry. The kids are always bragging, but it's a good thing because they're so excited about their progress. And the students are constantly tracking their progress and discussing their growth, and they're able to tell you their starting point. They're able to discuss their goal and where they are in terms of meeting that goal. So you see a lot of excitement, a lot of engagement, ownership of the learning kid, because Ashley has a wonderful method of making the kids understand why they need to achieve their goal, and she sets them up to be successful. So you always see engaged kids and students who are really, truly excited about their learning and their progress that they're making.
Ms. June, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
actually, yes. My first grade year, my first grade teacher, I recently saw her and I told her, I was like, do you know you're the reason that I became a teacher? And she was like, what? I said, yes, I wrote all about it. And she said, well, I want to see that. So I'm going to make sure she gets a copy of my write-up. But yes, first grade, it was just her energy, her motivation. She always encouraged me daily. And she was caring, giving. And I found those same qualities in myself from a little girl, 6 years old, first grade. And I just always want to help everyone. So I knew from that moment on, I was like, I too want to be a person that makes a difference in some child's life.
What's that first grade teacher's name?
Miss Hodge.
Thank you, Miss Hodge.
Yay.
Oh, Miss Nixon.
Yes, sir.
We know that to be the teacher of the year, that person is heavily involved in the total operation of the school. What else would we see Miss June doing at White City to help the school just work?
Well, Ashley begins her day before the bell actually rings and before the teacher planning time. She is, and she runs our before school program. She's our before school coordinator. So for many families, she is the first White City staff face that they will see, and they can count on her greeting them with a smile and with with just a welcome tone, and with the partnership that she provides for our before school program and representing our school. So not only does she serve in that capacity, but she is our MTSS coordinator. So she works with all of the teachers, and they can rely on her to provide data, to provide resources, and if Ashley does not know the answer, she's very resourceful. She will contact others to make sure that we have systems in place to ensure the success of all students. In addition to that, she plans collaboratively with teachers. She facilitates some collaborative planning sessions for identified grade groups, and she works with students as well. She's always pulling small groups. She partners with our attendance committee, and she partners with the leadership team, and she serves on the PBIS core team. Ashley really does, she does so much to support the overall school. And, you know, she takes initiative. She whenever we're short, she'll say, I'll do an extra lunch duty in addition to her own duty. So the thing about Ashley is that there is no task that is too big or too small. She'll do her best to tackle it. And she definitely contributes to the overall operation of our school.
Ms. June, as interventionist, you have an opportunity to speak with parents on a regular basis. What do you say to parents to help them ensure that their child will be successful?
I basically let them know where their child is and some of the resources and strategies that we have in place to help them better understand the importance of certain things that we do implement. Parents always have questions, and I just make sure that I'm open and available for them to help them understand on their level, because it's just little simple things that can be miscommunicated. So I make sure that they have the clarity to understand what's important for each individual student.
As a teacher of the year, what advice would you offer to new teachers?
Those first couple of years will be a struggle, but never give up. If you know that this is your heart and your passion, just keep at it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If we're all new at this, even though this is my 11th year, if I'm unsure of something, I reach out to people, and they're able to advise me. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't let that be a sign of weakness. Because some people I know, they're unsure, well, I don't want to ask, because that's a silly question. No question is silly. If you're unsure, make sure you ask.
Ms. Nixon, describe Ms. June for me using 3 adjectives and
Okay.
tell me why those 3.
All right, the 3 adjectives I would choose definitely would be generous. Miss June is very generous of her time. She's very generous of her gifts and her talents, and she will extend herself beyond the school day to support struggling teachers, to support students, and to definitely represent our school. Another adjective that I would choose would be compassionate. Ashley has a love of people. She connects with people. She connects with the kids, the parents. Parents seek her out, and so do the teachers. And they know that when they go to Ashley, she's a great sounding board, and Ashley is a listener, and she listens with her heart. She's a true compassionate teacher, truly is. And then I think the last adjective that I would use would be bright. She's very intelligent, very bright, very resourceful. Ashley has innovative ideas, and she will say things like, why don't we do this? Have we ever thought this? Has this ever been done? So she's always on the edge with her thinking, and always outside of that box that we always speak of. Very bright, very intelligent. So it would be bright, generous, and compassionate.
So, Ms. June, when did you really first fall in love with teaching?
Honestly, because I knew I wanted to be a teacher since first grade, but actually getting in the swing of it, I guess, during my college years when I actually got to experience and go out and do my practicum hours, I knew for sure, like, this is where I wanted to be.
In your position, how do you see your role helping to prepare students to be college and/or career ready?
I believe that my motivation and setting high expectations for the students and encouraging them to own up to their actual work, I think that helps them in the long run for the future, so they're able to understand and know what the real world is going to be like when it is their time to go to college. So I think everything that we do now is making an impact for them later on.
Ms. Nixon,
yes.
Tell me what makes Ms. June the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year.
Ms. June has a great global view as to what it takes in order to make a school successful. And then she can narrow that global into a classroom and into looking at an individual student and gauging the progress of a particular student. So she can put on a different lens each time to see what needs to happen and how she can make a positive impact from the overall function of a school to supporting a teacher who may have some classroom management issues. She's able to lead and facilitate professional development sessions. She's also able to communicate with parents and help them to understand information. She's also, most importantly, she connects with kids. And she knows how to involve them and engage them and help them develop a love of reading. So Ashley gets it. She definitely can make those connections with every aspect of the school.
So, Ms. June, I heard Ms. Nixon say when she was talking about you being the perfect candidate, about you having a positive impact. What do you think has been your greatest impact?
Building relationships and making those connections with the students. When I'm going to continue to bring in my personal experience from growing up, it was those, just my teachers making those connections with me and making sure that they were there for me. They didn't know, like, the little positive motivational talks would really impact me later. So I think that my greatest impact now as an educator would be building those relationships with the students, like everyone, the teachers as well.
So here's my final question to you. This is all encompassing. When you think about being 11 years as an educator, your life, your training, what are you most hopeful about when it comes to education?
That we continue to understand each other, our different cultures, because I feel like people fear what they don't understand. So I guess continuing to educate ourselves on the different cultures and having a better understanding of each other. I feel like once we get to that point, we will continue to see the growth that we need to make.
Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year,
Thank you.
White City Elementary. Ms. Nixon,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to tell Ms. Hard, that first grade teacher, thank you, and thank you for coming
Yes.
home to St. Lucie County. And I heard Ms. Nixon use a wonderful phrase about how you're able to listen with your heart and continue to do that so that we all can join you in making St. Lucie Public Schools a better, bigger, and brighter place for those students that go to school here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
And at this time, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show, Miss Amy Fasolero, who is the awesome Teacher of the Year at Palm Point Educational Research School. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perry.
Joining us also is the wonderful principal at Palm Point, Miss Kathleen Perez. Perez, welcome.
Thank you very much. We're very happy to be here today.
And we're excited to have you here, mainly for two reasons, as I've told everyone else. It gives us an opportunity, number one, to say congratulations. Gives us a chance just to celebrate the good things that are happening in education in St. Lucie County, but also at Palm Point. In addition to that, it gives us the opportunity to introduce some of our wonderful educators to our viewers so that they'll get just a glimpse of what the 2,100 plus educators in St. Lucie County, what they look like, what they do, and why we're so awesome and special as you represent them. So again, welcome to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show. Now, Ms. Fasolero, there may be some people watching who hadn't had the wonderful opportunity to meet you. So would you please give our viewers just a little bit about your background?
Yes, thank you. My name is Amy Fasolero. This is my 19th year in education. I am a native of St. Lucie County and proud of it. Love Fort Pierce. I have taught grades 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8. I am a media specialist this year, and the 3 years prior to this position, I served as the middle school instructional coach at Palm Point.
So you're homegrown.
Yes, sir.
Where did you go to school?
I actually went to a school called Indian River Academy when I was younger. But I'm so proud to be a part of St. Lucie Schools. My son has been a part of St. Lucie Schools and is a product of it. And we are just so blessed to be in this school system. What an amazing school district we have.
Well, we love it when those persons that are homegrown are right here helping us do the things that we do every day for students. Ms. Perez, I know everybody knows the wonderful Kathleen Perez, but there may be one or two people that may be viewing, so introduce yourself, please.
Well, I'd be happy to do so. Well, I'm not homegrown. I am from Boston originally, but I have spent all of my 27 years of education in St. Lucie Public Schools, and I'm very, very proud of that. I spent 18 years in the classroom, and the last 9 years I've been an administrator at Palm Point, 6 serving as the assistant principal, and now I'm the very proud principal of Palm Point.
So, Ms. Fazzolero, if I were to come into the Media Center tomorrow, what would I see?
Well, you would see students buzzing. They would be excited searching for new books. They would be talking about books and recommending them to one another. If you were to come in during one of my lessons, you would see me supporting our classroom teachers in the areas of writing and math when we're working in the Dewey Decimal System. So you just see hopefully a welcoming environment of students that are really excited about reading.
Because students are not with you all day, every day, they come and they go. How do you purposefully plan to engage students when they come to the Media Center?
Well, I was fortunate enough when I was placed at Palm Point 10 years ago to attend a week-long Kagan Cooperative Learning Training and what an impact that had on my teaching. So when I'm planning my lessons, I really try to incorporate those cooperative learning strategies, making sure that all of my students are involved, that they are active in the lesson, and that they're held accountable for what we're doing.
Have you always known that you wanted to be an educator, or when did you decide?
I remember as a little girl, I would set up my stuffed animals at my house and my brothers at the house and do teaching lessons with them. And I did. I loved going to school. I loved being a part of that. So definitely, I've always wanted to be a teacher.
When you think back to those times, was there a teacher that inspired you?
Yes, in fact, my third grade teacher, Mrs. Santoro, and ironically enough, her son is one of our PE coaches at Palm Point. But just the way that she made me feel when I was in the classroom, always welcome. She always went out of her way to make me feel special. She planned lots of activities and games and challenges that kept us really involved in our learning. So she was definitely an inspiration to me.
So, Ms. Perez, you get the opportunity to see the magic happen every day in the Media Center at Palm Point. Tell us, what is it that you see, that you hear, and how does it make you feel when you visit?
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of something that she just said about a teacher that she remembered. I can guarantee you for years to come that there'll be students from Palm Point that will say exactly that about Ms. Fazzolero, about the way that she makes them feel. She is the most positive, kind, caring teacher that I've ever met. And when you walk in her library, and again, by the way, she wanted to become a librarian. She went out, she got the degree, she took the test, and she did it because she wanted to try it. She wanted to go back to impact students and move a little bit more away from that coaching role. But when I go in that library, it's vibrant, it's energetic. Her kids are engaged. She takes her work very seriously, and she knows that she needs to support the whole school. So she is working in 4th and 5th grade with writing, and she's working in 3rd grade with reading, and it's just, there's great relationships that she builds with the kids. The kids love her. They absolutely love her, and I know that she is one of the teachers that students will remember for years to come because of the way you make them feel.
Ms. Fazzolero, as the Teacher of the Year at Palm Point, you are actually the ambassador for education. What advice would you offer to new teachers?
Building those relationships, not just with the students, but with the families, with the parents. Be the first person to reach out to your students and your families, letting them know that you're there for them, that you're going to support them. Have great communication with your students and families. Be dependable and consistent so that if you're saying you're going to call home, follow through with that and call home. That's how that they know that you care. So build those relationships with students and families. That's the core of what we do.
What advice do you offer to parents to help them ensure that their child will be successful?
Be involved. Have lots of conversations with your student, with your child. Ask them about their day. Ask them about what was the highlight of your day? What was the best thing that you learned today? Or what was something that you struggled with today? What did you find challenging? How did you feel about what you were learning? It really gives you a gauge of where they're at and what their needs are. And that's just what I would definitely say. It's what I do with my son. The first moment I see him, we talk about his day and we go through each one of his classes and we say, okay, first period, tell me about that. What did you learn? What did you talk about?
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
We know that when a person becomes the teacher of the year, they're not just stuck in the confines of their four walls, their classroom. They're out and about helping things happen, making things happen on campus. So what other things would we find Ms. Fazzolaro involved with?
Well, quite a few things, actually. That's been her role. Ms. Fazzolaro is basically involved in every activity that happens at the school, whether it be a parent event, a grade level event, a school-wide event, she's involved with it. In her role as a coach, she, first of all, not only was a learner, but she led most of the professional development that was going on in the area of, well, actually in language arts, in writing, and in math at the school. She also coached and mentored teachers. We do learning walks at our school where Ms. Fazzolaro would bring a group of teachers to a classroom and they would look at the best practices that they were seeing. They would come back, they would debrief, and they would talk about the feedback that maybe they'd share with that teacher, and then talk about the things that they could incorporate into their classroom. So she's served so many different roles within the school. She's a school-based leader. I mean, Amy is involved with basically everything that goes on at Palm Point.
Ms. Fazzolaro, we talked about new teachers. We also talked about parents. But the ambassador has to speak again. Superintendent may come by, school board members may come by. We may be at a community event, and they call on this ambassador for education from Palm Point to have a word. What's your message to them?
Now, they are the voice for our students. And so they get to make the decisions. And then when making those decisions, to please keep our students at the forefront in their best interest. And that may come to decisions about assessment. It might come down to decisions about funding. And looking at the whole child. A lot of our students really benefit from the arts programs, and being new to the Media Center, just recognizing that our students are talented in so many different ways. So when making those decisions, those important decisions, just making sure we're looking at the whole child.
As a media specialist, how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
Well, we are, moving towards 21st century education, and those jobs of long ago where people were working independently one-on-one in those factories, those are long gone. Now in our job force, people are working together to innovate, to create. And so utilizing some of those cooperative learning structures in our classroom, having students discuss, having them interact, having them prove and disprove things, and having those conversations, that's going to prepare them for those jobs.
Great, great, great. So, Ms. Perez, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Tough job. Describe Ms. Fazzolaro using 3 adjectives and explain why you chose those 3.
Okay, the 3 to describe Ms. Fazzolaro would be effervescent. I think effervescent's a perfect word for her. And I believe inspirational and devoted.
And explain why those 3.
Well, effervescent is bubbly personality, energetic. There's this positivity that she exudes on a daily basis. She's one of the kindest, most caring, dedicated people that I know. And there's not a person that's ever met her that would not say that about her. She's inspirational because she's often really that unsung hero at our school. She's not looking for the limelight, but she's always involved. She has that relentless sense of urgency, that it's not just about what's going on in her media center, but it's about what am I going to do for the students at this school. And I have a perfect example. The other day we were having a conversation about coming here today, and she said, you know, I've noticed this teacher who's been out, and she's been out quite a while on a leave, and we've had a substitute. She said, I'm going to pop by there on my planning, and I'm just going to see what I can do. Because she knows whether it's pulling a child, tutoring a child, she's kind of relentless. It might have been. Can I give you a fourth word?
You just did, and I'll be happy to take it. I'll be happy to take it. So, Ms. Fazzolero, what do you think has been your greatest impact?
Probably just working with so many amazing colleagues, learning from them, receiving the trainings that I have, just to really refine my teaching. Others and colleagues have really impacted my teaching, and I'd like to think just improve my teaching.
Tell me, when did you first really, truly fall in love with teaching?
I really, really fell in love and got excited when I was placed at Palm Point 10 years ago, and I was put into a 6th grade language arts position. I hadn't taught middle school up to that point in my career. I had taught 2nd, 4th, and 5th. And boy, that was really exciting for me. I truly enjoy 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle school students. I love that we can have amazing conversations with them. They get us. And I love being able to hopefully positively impact their lives.
All these years later, you're still energetic, effervescent, relentless, inspirational. Tell me, what is it that fuels you?
A heart for service. Serving the community, serving our students, and just hopefully making the world a better place by showing kindness to others, by making others feel validated. And we have such an amazing opportunity in our classroom when we get to work with our students each and every day that we are the voice that they hear. So just that heart for service.
So tell me, with this heart for service, knowing all the things that you know and experiencing all the things that you have, why do you think that you really are a teacher?
Again, going back to service, I truly believe in my heart of hearts that I was created and designed to do what I'm doing. And I love and enjoy working and interacting with many people. And what a better place to do that than in a school setting where we get to, as teachers and educators, share our lives with so many people, share our lives with our students, their families, our colleagues. And you know, we're the future changers. So we are the ones that are going to be able to impact these students as they're moving forward, hopefully in a more positive direction.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs...
The world needs more kindness. And I'm so glad that St. Lucie Schools is moving towards the social emotional learning and incorporating that within our classrooms. Everyone wants to feel that they belong. Everyone in our deep core, we want to feel that we are heard and that we're valued. And when we are kind to one another, when we are taking the time to make eye contact with someone and wish them a good morning or drop them a nice compliment, just imagine the generation that we're impacting. That's going to be a generational thing. They're going to treat their children and raise their children in that same manner. And so we're future changers.
Let's end with you answering this question. What are you most hopeful about?
I am most hopeful that, again, our future students will go out into the workforce and that they will be the innovators, that they will be the creators of the next generation. it's really exciting to see what's happening in St. Lucie schools and all of the gains that we are making. So I'm really hopeful for our school district and our students that we are producing in our schools.
Ms. Fazzolero, congratulations on your selection as Teacher of the Year. Ms. Perez, thank you for joining in with us and sharing
Thank
those
you.
wonderful things that's happening in the Media Center. And we want to thank you both for all the things that you do every day to continue to make St. Lucie Public Schools a bigger, brighter, and better place for the students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Welcoming at this time to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show, Miss Amanda Torson, the awesome Teacher of the Year at Parkway Elementary School. Welcome, Ms. Torson.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us also at this time is Carolyn Wilkins, the proud principal at Parkway. Ms. Wilkins, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Ms. Torson, I started off by telling everyone that I've had the chance to speak with how ecstatic we are about having this opportunity to speak with you. A couple of reasons why that is. Number one, it gives us a chance to say congratulations. It gives us a chance to celebrate education. In addition to that, it gives us a chance to introduce just a few of the wonderful teachers that we have in St. Lucie Public Schools to our many viewers. So they just get a peek at some that represent 2,100 plus professional educators. And for that, we are elated to have that opportunity. I'm pretty sure that there's someone watching that hasn't had the opportunity to meet you. So would you please give us a little bit about your bio, your background as an educator?
My name is Amanda Torson. I teach second grade at Parkway Elementary. This is my 4th year teaching there. I am actually a career changer, but this has always been something that I've always wanted to do. And now that I'm doing it, it's definitely a passion.
We're glad that you changed careers.
Thank you.
Welcome home. Ms. Wilkins, someone may be watching that hadn't had the opportunity to meet you as well. Let us know how you came to be the proud principal at Parkway.
Sure. I started teaching in St. Lucie County at White City Elementary and then became the assistant principal at Floresta. And I've been the principal at Bayshore, Sam Gaines Academy, and now at Parkway. This is my 6th year there. So I had the pleasure of hiring Ms. Torson.
Awesome. So, Ms. Torson, I come to Parkway tomorrow. Ms. Wilkins said, let's take a walk, Doc. I say, sure. And we end up in your second grade classroom. What would I see happening?
You would see cooperative learning with my students. You would see engagement. You would see a lot of technology being infused into my classroom. You would see loving kids, happy kids, and you will see me, this is the time of the year that I actually start to release them to be more independent thinkers, so you'll start to see that.
What's your favorite part of teaching, favorite part of your day?
The favorite part of my day is definitely the relationship building. Every day, my students know that they have a confidant. They know that they have someone that they can trust, rely on. And then, of course, it's just a plus to see when a student actually understands the concept that I am teaching. Seeing that light bulb, that's just the icing on the cake.
How do you infuse technology into instruction?
My classroom runs on technology. I embed my daily lessons into a PowerPoint, and my lessons are driven from that PowerPoint. I also have a multitude of opportunities where my students are able to use the computers from iReady, reading and math, reading counts, and Imagine Learning.
So, Ms. Wilkins, you're on campus every day and you get to see the magic happen. What is it that you see and hear, and how does it make you feel when you visit this second grade classroom?
I think she hit the nail on the head when she said relationship building. Ms. Torson prides herself on making those connections with children. And I would say she doesn't teach second grade, I would say she teaches kids, regardless of what they need, whether it's social emotional support, whether it's problem solving, or whether it's reading. She's there for them.
So, Ms. Torson, very active in second grade, teacher beginning to release, but how do you purposefully plan and use engagement for instruction?
I purposely plan it by thinking about what can the students take ownership of. Like I said, I want to build independent learners. So I purposely plan and collaborate with my colleagues. How can we make that happen? I make it to where the students are able to do, engaging tasks. Definitely always have them, never know that I'm going to call on them. I have various ways where the students can respond. I do whiteboard responses, cooperative groups. I just try to get them to be more independent.
When did you realize that you wanted to be a teacher?
I kind of always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. Growing up, I just thought that they were the heroes. They got to see all of us before we went into our careers, and I've always had this spot in my heart that I just knew I needed to fulfill. I kind of stuck with the business because, like I said, I'm a career changer. So I kind of stuck with the business aspect because that was my comfort zone. But back in 2015, I said, I just can't deal with this emptiness in here. I've got to try it. And I am so thankful I did.
Great, great. So, as a teacher of the year, you're talking to new teachers. What advice do you offer to them?
Oh, that is simple. 2 things. Relationship building is number 1 with the students. Also equally important is collaboration with your colleagues. I still today will go to my administrators, my coaches, and other teachers to seek advice and guidance and support.
So what advice do you offer to parents when you're having conversations with them to help them ensure that their child will be successful?
I communicate with families on a daily basis. I consistently give them feedback on where students can improve, where they might need assistance, and definitely always hit on their strengths. I would say that reading is the most important. If students can read at least 30 minutes a day, it will help them continue their growth.
Ms. Wilkins, tell me, to be the teacher of the year, that person is actively engaged in many aspects of the campus. What are the things that we see Ms. Torreson doing to help Parkway work?
Ms. Torreson is wonderful because she always says, what can I do to help? So whether it's supporting our PBIS activities, whether it's being involved in a CSI night event, any of the parent events, any of those things, she's always there to step in and help us with anything.
Ms. Torreson, how do you see you preparing students to be college ready, career ready from 2nd grade?
Oh, it starts early. The biggest impact that I think I have with students being ready for college and career is data binders. We, even at 2nd grade, keep track of all of our unit assessments. We write goals for our personal self, for the school, for the class, and we follow up on it. I work with my students on a weekly basis. We go over our unit assessment scores, how we can improve per standard, per learning target, and how we can continue the success. We also write goals related to our iReady diagnostics. So each year that I've been doing this, which I think I've done now for 3 years, I have seen significant growth due to that. And I think that prepares them with the communication aspect as well.
Is there something new or exciting that you're working on this year in 2nd grade?
Yes.
Explain that for me.
We are working with Stanford Harmony, and it is a social emotional skills. Every day for 30 minutes, at the end of the day, I work with my students. We, depending on the lesson that I am teaching, we could be working on learning how to communicate with our peers, learning empathetic skills, learning compassion. We read stories, we talk about it, they buddy up, they do activities. It's a really remarkable thing.
Great. Ms. Wilkins, describe your teacher of the year, Ms. Torreson, 3 adjectives, Tell me why you chose those three.
I would say she's motivated, she's nurturing, and she's optimistic. She is motivated every single day to bring out the best in every single student. She takes them from where they are and takes them to the next step. She's nurturing. She's talked about it a few times now, about building those relationships. She really does take her role as a teacher very seriously, and parents are very happy about that because she's not just interested in improving their academics, she's improving the whole child. And then she's optimistic. I would say there's not one person on campus who could say she doesn't greet them with a smile. She's happy every day. She's glad to be where she is and doing what she's doing.
Ms. Torreson, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
That anybody can do it. My 12-year-old self had some challenges emotionally, and if you just have the right person to support you, to guide you, to love you, to care for you, and to be that consistent figure in your life, you can overcome anything.
Second grade, you know, can be very active and it's very busy. Students are really growing up, as you said, and you're releasing them to take ownership at this time. What fuels you?
The students. The students fuel me. Being there every day for them. Seeing their smiles when I walk into the room. It just, you know you have a purpose.
Please reflect for me on your past career and now your new career. Why are you really a teacher?
My past career, I was actually in human resources. Loved it. I really did. It was my comfort zone, though. Ever since I was 16 years old, I worked in the business industry. But like I said, I had that emptiness in my heart, and I just, one day in 2015, I said, I'm going to have a talk with my supervisor, and I'm going to apply for a job, and if it's meant to be, then I am going to take the classes, do the assessments, and I'm going to do it. And it was meant to be, and I am so thankful.
Ms. Wilkins, what makes Ms. Torreson the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I think that everybody wants their child to be in a classroom with somebody who is in attendance, but is also really, really there to reach every individual child. And I think that makes her the perfect candidate for this. She could model for other teachers what's expected in the classroom. It's not an easy job, but she does it with a smile and with that enthusiasm that it's worth it. The extra work is always worth it.
Again, Ms. Torreson, because of your diverse professional background, thinking about it now, with your experiences, what do you think is the soul of education?
It's definitely the heart and promoting those lifelong learners.
So when will you know that you are a success?
I will know that I'm a success when I have at least one child come back to me, a previous student, and let me know what kind of impact I had on their life.
So to this day, with the time that you have been teaching these 5 years, what is your biggest accomplishment?
The relationships. Even students that I had that were in second grade 3 years ago, that are in fifth grade now, they still run up to me. They still talk to me. They still know that I am their advocate.
So Ms. Wilkins, is there anything else that you want to add that we hadn't spoken about?
I think that Ms. Torreson also does a really nice job balancing her personal life with school. Her son is also at our school, and so she's involved as a parent as well as a teacher, and she sees how much both roles are important.
So, finish this phrase for me. I believe
that the world needs more understanding of diversity.
Final question. As an educator, what are you most hopeful about?
I'm hopeful that there can be more love, more compassion, more understanding, that not everybody just jumps to conclusions, because everyone comes from some sort of platform. Everyone can learn. It's just up to someone finding out how to bring that out in them, how to inspire them.
Ms. Torreson, congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year. Ms. Wilkins, thank you for joining us. Ms. Torreson, you as well. And I am so glad that you filled that emptiness in your heart, came to be an educator, and do those wonderful things to help us make our district a bigger, brighter, and better place for those students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. Congratulations.
Thank you.
La gente cree que soy basura, pero están equivocados. Hoy soy una lata de aluminio, pero algún día podría ser un estadio.
It's our privilege to welcome to our spotlight show for Teachers of the Year at this time, Mr. Wilson Parra-Garcia, who is the Dynamic Teacher of the Year at Port St. Lucie High. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pierre. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you. Mr. Ocampo, the Dynamic Principal at Port St. Lucie High, is joining us as well. Welcome, Mr. Ocampo.
Dr. Perry, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yes, yes. So, just in case we have some viewers, well, let me tell you this. We're excited every time that we have the opportunity to do this because two reasons. It gives us a chance to congratulate you on your selection as the Teacher of the Year and then to celebrate education. But it also gives us an opportunity to introduce to our viewers the dynamic teaching field that we have here in St. Lucie County Public Schools. So just in case there's someone that's watching who does not know who you are, would you just briefly give us a little bit about your bio?
I am Wilson Parra-Garcia. I am from Colombia. I arrived to the United States 2 years ago and looking for a new opportunity for my life because I want to learn English. I want to improve my professional skills at the same time. And it's my pleasure to be here. And I have 18 years teaching and 16 in Colombia and the last 2 years in Port St. Lucie High School.
Awesome, awesome. Mr. Ocampo, I know you've been here before, but there may be someone watching who hadn't had the opportunity to meet the wonderful Adrian Ocampo. Give us a little bit about how you became the proud principal there.
Well, I'm no longer the new principal at Port St. Lucie High. This is my third year at Port St. Lucie High School. I served as a principal and assistant principal and teacher in Palm Beach County for about 20 years. And I'm fortunate to be the proud principal of PSL. We're doing great things there. We have great teachers and students and educators, and it's just been a great ride so far.
Okay. Now, Mr. Parra-Garcia, Spanish teacher.
Yes.
At Port St. Lucie High. Do you teach all grades 9, 10, 11, and 12, or?
Yes, I am teaching 19 through 12th grade.
Okay.
At this time, I am teaching Spanish IB.
Okay.
And I have the responsibility to my students take the international exam for the Spanish certification.
So, if I were to come to Port St. Lucie High School tomorrow and walked into your classroom, what would I see happening?
As you arrive, you can see that I am with my students talking, and I start my lesson talking with my students why it's important to learn Spanish. I will need that they make the reflection that the world is changing, that Florida needs people with good preparation, and for the reason they will need to be ready to talk more than one language because it's a requirement in this place.
So I have to ask this question. In your class, is it all Spanish, or do we go back and forth between Spanish and English?
For example, in Spanish too, I will need to talk in English because I will need to explain to my students the lesson in English first, and then they will need to apply the knowledge in Spanish. I will need to use both languages in Spanish too. But in Spanish 3 and 6, I speak in Spanish 90%.
Okay. So how do you purposefully engage students in a foreign language class?
The first thing is that the students need to consider that the Spanish is important for their life. When the students consider that they are learning something that is important that they can use in the future, they can engage easy. And then I use different strategies. I can use the games, the academic games, or activities where the students have interaction with the new knowledge. I like to have conversational activities with my students because my philosophy is that each student every day needs to learn something new.
Do you use technology to help instruct your students?
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineer, and for this reason I love the technology for the learning process. I have the opportunity to go to different trainings outside to Colombia. I was in Spain and in South Korea, where I was received information about how the teachers can use the technology in the classroom for help the students to achieve the success during the learning process. And I like to use, for example, Quizlet. And with Quizlet, a student can practice at home vocabulary words. There are different games with Quizlet. Students can practice listening and talking and typing in Spanish. At the same time, for example, I use Edpuzzle. When I want to use one video from YouTube, I can adapt the video according to the lesson that I plan for my students. I like to use Edmodo, for example. With Edmodo, I have communication with parents, with the students. I can load up different resources for a student, practice at home with this, and improve their Spanish skills.
So, Mr. Ocampo, you have the wonderful opportunity of seeing the magic happen in Mr. Parra Garcia's class every day. What is it that you see, feel, hear when you visit?
When I visit Mr. Parra Garcia's classroom, the first thing that I see is the passion that he has, not just for teaching, but also for his subject area for Spanish. So he's passionate about Spanish, and he wants to make sure that the students learn the language. He also has he cares deeply about the students, wants to make sure that they feel comfortable there, that they're in a safe environment, and that it is an environment that is comfortable for all the students in the class. And they're all very calm. They kind of pick up on his passion for education. And, you know, Mr. Parra Garcia has a lot of pride in this classroom. So it's just a very welcoming environment.
Mr. Parra Garcia, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher?
Really, when I was a child, I want to be an actor. And my family have a higher expectation with mine. They say, no, we don't want that you will be an actor. We need a lawyer or we need a doctor in our family. And I say, no, I don't like this. And when I was in high school with my art teacher, we have a good relationship. And they say that I have potential to teach. And they give me different opportunities to bring tutoring to other student, bring tutoring to my classmates, and with the student to another level at the same time. And he say all the time, I would like that in the future, when I will retire, you will be in my position in this school. I want to teach you every single thing that I know about art, because I consider that you have passion for this, and you will be an excellent educator. And today, I want to say thank you to my art teacher, because all the time he gives me good instruction, and he considers that I have potential to serve others and to help to my students.
As the Teacher of the Year, what advice would you give to a new teacher?
The advice is, I consider that enjoy the profession. This is a beautiful profession, and that I would like that they consider that we have a big responsibility with the society, because the people outside to the school have a higher expectation about us in the classroom, about the family consider that we are with the kids in the classroom, and we are bringing a good instruction for there, because we are preparing for the student for the life. At the same time, I would like that they consider that every single thing that the teacher do inside to the classroom have a positive or a negative impact in the life of each student.
So you also have to communicate with parents to help them keep abreast of what's going on with their children. What do you say to parents to help them ensure that their children will be successful?
When the student, for example, need improve something, I like to have contact with the parents by telephone, by email, and I say every single day my classroom has open doors for the students and parents who can come here and practice and retake activities, or the students who need to complete any activities. I am able all the time after school. I consider that I know at what time I need to arrive to my school, to my job, but I don't know at what time I live in every day. Because when the student needs my help, when the parents need the support, I am able all the time for them.
So, Mr. Ocampo, describe your wonderful Teacher of the Year using 3 adjectives, and tell me why you chose those 3.
Enthusiastic, full of pride, and very positive. So let's start with positive. When I first hired Mr. Parra Garcia, he had just arrived to the country. He did not speak English very well. My foreign language department wasn't as functional as it is now. And I needed someone to fill a very important role. And I took a chance on Mr. Parra Garcia because of his attitude, because of his enthusiasm. And within 6 months, I saw him walking down the hallway one day, and I said, Mr. Parra Garcia, I need you to be our department head.
6 months later.
6 months later. And he was like, what is that? I'm like, don't worry about it. I need you to come to the department head meeting. And he sat down at the meeting, and I said, welcome our new department head. And our department, you know, a year later, is running so smooth.
Awesome.
It's stable. It's one of the most well-functioning department that we have.
That's great.
And it really has to do with our teacher here, Mr. Parra Garcia.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Mr. Parra Garcia, let's keep in line with communicating with others, okay? We talked about new teachers and we talked about parents. As the Teacher of the Year, you are the ambassador for education. So I may have a lawmaker or the superintendent, the school board members that come by, and Mr. Ocampo calls for the Teacher of the Year. What would your message be to those persons about education?
For you be educator, you need to feel passion. You will need to have vocation, and you will need to consider that when you made a mistake, the mistake is one opportunity for you to improve every day. That if the educator have goals in their life, the students will have the goals at the same time. We are a model for our students, and the students see every day the teacher in front of the class, and a lot of the students is probably that consider that the teacher is the person that have inspiration for them, and the message for all teachers is that we are a community, and in this community we are able to learn every day and to share our knowledge and to learn. And each student has something to teach us as a teacher at the same time. We have the opportunity to learn from our student at the same time.
You mentioned that you taught in Columbia and now here. When would you say you first fell in love with teaching?
I have, when I started working in Colombia, I have the opportunity to work in one place where not a lot of people want to work because it was in 2000 year, and at this time Colombia have a big problem, a lot of violence in this region, and for the reason they was needing teachers. And in this region, the kids arrive to the school every day because they lost one family member, because they need support from the school. And at this time, I understand that I can serve others, and that the kids need that the teacher will be friendly and bring the things that probably that they don't have at home. Because we need to listen to the students. Sometimes the students arrive to the school with a lot of problems, and we have this opportunity to listen what happened with them and to suggest, to help them and bring support if they need.
You've been here for 2 years working at Port St. Lucie High. What would you say has been your biggest accomplishment?
I consider that the first thing was last year, the student results, because in my classes, IP Language and Culture and IB classes, 100% of our students pass the international exam.
Awesome.
Yeah, I consider that this is the biggest thing that I did last year with my students.
Great.
I feel comfortable with the results, and I want to say to my students that it was a pleasure to be in my classroom, and I feel that every student who are taking the class with my classroom, I have confidence in them.
Mr. Ocampo, what makes Mr. Parra Garcia the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I think it's because all of his energy and all of his enthusiasm doesn't just stay with him. It spreads amongst his department, it spreads amongst his students, it spreads to other people, and it multiplies. And so, you know, you take his energy and you put it to the power of 2, and then you times that by the power of 2, and that's how it spreads throughout my school.
Couple more questions for you. Finish this phrase for me. I believe.
I believe in my students first. I believe that every day my students are learning new things. I believe that Spanish is important for achieve the professional goals in my students in the future. And I believe that if we work together as a team, we can achieve big results in our schools.
Final question. As an educator, what are you most hopeful about?
Hopeful about the learning process. I consider that if we have confidence in our students, we can have hopeful for the learning process and the results in each student.
Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year. Ms. Ocampo, thank you for coming and joining us as we celebrate education and celebrate those persons that have been selected as the Teacher of the Year. Please continue to let your enthusiasm, your positiveness, as well as your pride spread across the campus at Port St. Lucie High School, because what you're doing every day helps us all to make education here a bigger, brighter, and better place for all students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
At this time, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show the awesome Miss Brittany LaChance, who's the dynamic Teacher of the Year at Morningside Elementary School. Ms. LaChance, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi.
We're also glad to have the awesome principal, my dear friend Kathleen Melrose, from Morningside as well. Welcome, Ms. Melrose.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Ladies, it's awesome, wonderful opportunity for us to do this Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show, as I told others, basically for 2 reasons. Number one, it gives us an opportunity to say congratulations to you, and in doing so, we celebrate education. Also, it gives us an opportunity to introduce just a few of the wonderful teachers that we have in St. Lucie County to our many viewers, because you represent some 2,100 plus other professional educators. So it's just great for us to let our public see those dynamic teachers who are doing wonderful things as educators every day in our district. Now, Ms. LaChance, I'm pretty sure that everybody that's viewing hadn't had the wonderful opportunity to say hello to you. So would you please let our viewers in, just give them a little bit about your background, your bio.
Okay, I'm a 4th grade teacher at Morningside, and I was born and raised in St. Lucie County. So I attended Weatherby Elementary, Dan McCarty Middle School, Port St. Lucie High School. I got my AA from Indian River State College, and then went on to get my bachelor's at Florida Atlantic University, where I received my ESOL endorsement, and I'm currently working on some other endorsements as well.
It's awesome when we have an opportunity to celebrate those students that matriculated through our system, that choose to come back here and share their wealth and their knowledge with students. So we're glad to know that you're homegrown. Homegrown, Port St. Lucie High, Port St. Lucie High, something like that, right?
Something like that.
Miss Melrose,
Yes.
let everyone know how you came to be the proud principal at Morningside.
Well, this is my second year principal at Morningside Elementary, and it's a fabulous place to be. I love going there every single day. Got the best staff and best kids in the county. I hope I'm allowed to say that. Prior to that, I was assistant principal at Savannah Ridge. Great experience as well. And prior to that, I was at Palm Point as an instructional coach as well as a teacher.
So, Ms. LaChance, I'm dropping by tomorrow at Morningside. I have an open invitation. So, I'm dropping by that 4th grade classroom led by the wonderful Brittany LaChance. What would I see happening?
Okay, so we are working hard on reading. We're working on reading to understand and reading to learn our social studies and science content. We are working hard in math. We're working right now on adding and subtracting fractions So those things that they got in 3rd grade, the basic facts and the understanding of fractions, now we're working harder with them. You'll see writing. We are working so hard on writing, and right now especially on opinion-based writing. And you're also going to see social and emotional learning. Everything that 9 and 10-year-olds see, you're going to see in our classrooms at Morningside.
So, what's your favorite part of your day?
My favorite part of my day is any moment when you see that light bulb come on. When they just, oh, I got it. Yesterday we were doing fractions and we did it as an equation, we did it as an area model, and when they saw the picture they were like, oh, that is that, and they were just like, whoa, okay, now it makes sense. So those light bulb moments are exciting.
4th grade, we know that there's a lot of energy occurring all day long with your students. So how do you purposefully plan engagement as an instructional strategy?
We plan for that movement. So if we're learning about molecules, we'll get up and pretend that we're gas molecules and move around the room. We'll pretend we're solids and get together. So we plan movement into content whenever we can. We also plan collaborative structures so they have a chance to get up and go sit with a different group, talk to that group, and use their energy to engage in their learning.
When I hear you say movement and pretend, it sounds like dance and drama to me. Using the arts to reinforce instruction. I just had to throw that in as an artist. Okay. Now, tell me this. These students love technology and love the use of technology. So how do you purposefully use technology to help you teach the 4th grade content?
We make sure they get opportunities to go on the computers that we have in the classroom. We've got some desktops, we've got some laptops. We make sure they get on iReady programs and other programs that are going to help them to learn. We also incorporate other programs. We make PowerPoint programs that have animation and things of that nature to make sure they're getting the standards and those harder toolbox questions that we have. We also are incorporating new technology whenever we can. One of my coworkers taught me about this thing called Plickers, where kids can hold up these different cards and you can scan the room and immediately know who's got it. They can see who's got it. So we're working in new technology whenever we can and putting our technology we have in the classroom to the best use we can.
So, Ms. Melrose,
yes,
you have the wonderful opportunity of watching the magic happen every day in Ms. LaChance's 4th grade class.
Yes.
When you visit, what is it that you see, hear, or how does it make you feel?
When you walk into that classroom, you feel the genuine love of learning, and that comes straight from her. She instills that. So her kids know that she genuinely cares about them and that she cares about learning, so do they. One of the many things that she does well is her data tracking. Love going into the classroom when the kids are working in their data tracking agendas, and she's given them that one-on-one feedback and showing them where they are and where they need to be, and the kids are setting those daily goals. That's something that takes place in that classroom on a daily basis, regular basis. Kids know where they are and where they need to go, but they also know how they're going to get there. And that's what's really important.
Ms. LaChance, have you always known that you wanted to be an educator?
For a long time. Around 10 years old, I think I decided. I used to go to summer camp, which was lots of fun, but there were younger kids there too, and I remember there was a group of 4-year-olds, and I taught them how to play a game outside, and then I had this little army of followers that loved me because I taught them something new, and I would play with those 4-year-olds all the time, and I just loved teaching younger people, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be a teacher.
So tell me this. What would Brittany today say to Brittany's 10-year-old self?
Just not to give up. Even when you think something is beyond your ability, just to keep trying and you'll get there.
So, looking back at the decision as a 10-year-old that you knew you wanted to be an educator, do you reflect back and say that there was someone or maybe a few people that inspired you to become an educator?
Probably. I had some amazing teachers. One that really stands out was my first gifted teacher. I was kind of struggling in the general education program, and then I was moved into the gifted program, and it was Miss Huter, and she really challenged me and really made me love learning. And now I get to work with Miss Huter at Morningside, so that's pretty awesome. But I had a lot of great teachers along the way that challenged me and inspired me.
As the Teacher of the Year, what advice would you offer to new teachers?
New teachers. I do love data, and as a new teacher, when I would sit and look at data, my data didn't match that of those veteran teachers, and it would get me down sometimes. And I would think, I know I'm doing the same things they're doing. We collaboratively plan. I'm using the same strategies. I'm doing everything they're doing. Why is my data not as awesome as their data? And there are just some things that take time to pick up, things that will make you a better teacher, and you're just not going to have it all right away. So just to give yourself time to be as awesome as the teachers around you.
In elementary school, as it should be everywhere, we know there's a lot of communication, conversations with parents.
Yes.
What advice do you give to parents to help them ensure that their child will be a success?
Knowing what their students' goals are. Because if you know what your student's specific goal is in math and specific goal is in reading, and you're helping them to work on that at home, then that's going to move them forward. When they accomplish that goal, be asking them, okay, what's your next goal? Having one goal for each subject and working on it whenever you can find spare time.
Ms. Melrose, to be the Teacher of the Year, we know that person is involved in just about everything that goes on campus.
Absolutely.
What other activities will we find Ms. LaChance helping with so that Morningside just basically works?
Every activity. Brittany is hands-on deck in every aspect of the school, from pitching a tent and doing a camp out night and being that one teacher that decided to stay outside with all of the parents that night. Thank you so much. To running parent events, to literacy nights. Just yesterday, packing kindness baskets, and just every aspect, Brittany is there and putting her hands, all hands in.
Great.
All the time.
Great. So we talked about sharing information with new teachers and also with parents. But you are naturally now an ambassador for education. So you got to have a message. Superintendent comes, school board members may stop by. You have an opportunity to share. What would your message be?
My message is just that every parent, every student, every teacher is capable of growth. And making sure that we can make that happen. Helping parents grow, helping students and teachers grow.
So, Melrose, describe Ms. LaChance for me. 3 adjectives, and you got to tell us why you chose those 3.
Okay. First and foremost, genuine. Miss LaChance, and anybody even viewing this can just see that genuineness with her. And everybody who meets her or has the privilege of working with her or learning from her instantly can feel that genuine passion that she has. So definitely genuine. Secondly is strategic. You hear her talk about data. She'll shift. She goes from this energetic, bubbly teacher ready to get into all these hands-on activities to where's my data? And she does that shift, and she's very strategic and very deliberate in her planning and her execution of what she's planning. And the kids don't even realize how much of that is that deliberate because they're enjoying the learning environment so much in her class. So genuine for sure, strategic without a doubt, and dedicated. Her dedication to not only her class, but to the entire 4th grade team, and then to the school as a whole. She's been a leader on that team with our shift and our shift to our data focus, and she's really taken that, and her team respects her, and that's because of the person that she is. So her dedication to her class, to her team, to her school, and also to her family. And she's also a soccer coach outside. Somehow she finds additional time to even continue outside of school, and she's a coach as well. So those would be the 3 adjectives to describe Ms. LaChance.
So, Ms. LaChance, 4th grade, 8 more years of school. How do you see what you're doing helping to prepare students to be college and or career ready?
Focusing on that goal that they have right now that's going to move them forward to get the proficiency that they need, or even just to get that learning gain. If we can get a learning gain every year, we'll have a proficient college career ready student by the end.
Okay, you told us about Ms. Huter. Thank you, Ms. Huter. We know you, we appreciate you. But when did you really first fall in love with teaching?
No, I can't remember a time that I first fell in love with it, but I have little moments all the time that are like, yeah, this is what I love. So when I sit down and I have that data chat with a student and I get to say, yay, you got your first green score, you've worked so hard, I love that moment. Or even that moment that it's like, oh, you got your first red score, you're rocking algebra, your number sense is amazing, and geometry is just that one sticking point for you. We're gonna get there before we get to FSA. Or that moment when you get to really build relationships. My class earned 50 white bucks, which is class compliments. They were working as a team and doing well, and they got to have this huge celebration. We had a dance party. Miss Melrose came in. We had pizza.
Did Melrose dance too?
She did.
Whoa.
She danced with the kids.
Did you
I
dance
danced
with
with.
the-
I
okay.
did.
Yes.
I danced with the kids. We borrowed some lights. It was a whole huge thing, and it was
Awesome.
exciting. So, just all the exciting moments that we get to have make me realize, yeah, I love teaching. I'm glad I'm here.
Ms. Melrose, what makes Ms. LaChance the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
It's definitely what she brings to the table all around. Again, I have to go back to that strategic person, that person that is about that data and getting the kids to where they need to be for proficiency. But then it goes back to that social and emotional learning piece. Ms. LaChance builds relationships with her kids that are every child should experience a Miss LaChance. She knows her kids, she knows her families, and she takes the time to know them and build those relationships, and that's what makes her exceptional.
So, Ms. LaChance, what's your biggest accomplishment?
My biggest accomplishment is my work with the bottom quartile. So the bottom quartile is our lowest 25% of our students. Their scores are the lowest 25. Working with them and helping them to reach their learning gains. Because like I said, if we can get a learning gain every year out of those students, they'll be proficient just like the rest of the students by the time that they matriculate out of our St. Lucie Public Schools.
So you become the Teacher of the Year, so you gotta know education. So what do you think is the soul about this thing that we call education?
The kids. It's all for the kids. The kids are the soul of education.
So you go back in each and every day, energized, enthusiastic, dedicated, strategic, genuine. What drives you to do so?
What drives me? My kids would say that Mountain Dew Kickstart. I have one of those every day, and my kids see me with one every day, so they know. No, the kids. I have 3 kids at home. My niece that I'm adopting and my 2 younger ones. I've got my soccer team of 6 little kids. I've got my Odyssey of the Mind team of 7 boys. I've got 73 kids at church because I'm in charge of the children's program at church. So it's just kids, my 20 kids in my classroom, of course, all day, everyday kids. It's all about the kids.
So what do you think has been your greatest impact?
My greatest impact is probably back to that achievement, is working with those bottom 25% of kids and getting them where they need to be.
We're gonna start wrapping up, okay?
Okay.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs.
The world needs. The world needs more patience. Patience with other people, to understand that their shortcomings are just areas for them to grow, and patience with themselves to realize that the spot that they're at right now is not where they have to be forever. Patience with themselves to give themselves time to grow and achieve those goals that they want to achieve.
I'm gonna push a little more.
All right.
What do you know for sure?
What do I know for sure? Every day is a new opportunity. Every day is a new opportunity to hit the things you maybe missed yesterday and to even push a little bit further and do better.
Last one. As an educator, what are you most hopeful about?
Most hopeful. I'm most hopeful about probably the social and emotional learning I see happening. If these students can connect with each other and be good human beings and contribute to their society, and they make these learning gains, then we're gonna have a bright future. If kids can communicate effectively with each other, be kind to each other, we're gonna have a better world.
Thank you for sharing with me today. Ms. Melrose, thank you for joining us. And Ms. LaChance, thank you for that spark of energy that you bring to your students and also to the Morningside family every day. We thank you for all that you are doing to ensure that this will be a bigger, brighter, and better place for all the students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. And again, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
And we are so excited at this time to welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show the awesome Mr. Michael Moulton, who's the fantastic Teacher of the Year at Savannah Ridge Elementary School. Mr. Moulton, welcome.
Thank you.
He's brought along with him the very dynamic principal there, Mr. Roberto Bonsignor, who's the awesome principal at Savannah Ridge. Welcome, Mr. B.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we're excited to have you here. As I told everyone, I'll do you the same way. Excited for really a couple of reasons. Number one, it gives us a chance to tell you congratulations. In doing so, we also celebrate education. In addition to that, it gives us a chance just to give our viewers a peek at some of the educators that are part of the 2,100 plus educators here in St. Lucie County that's making a difference in many of the students' lives, those 39,000 students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. So it gives us a chance to share with them and again to celebrate. But Mr. Moulton, I'm pretty sure that there may be just one or two people that had an opportunity to meet you. So you please give us a little bit about your bio as an educator.
Okay. I was born and raised here in St. Lucie County. I went to Weatherby Elementary, and then from there I went to Dan McCarty Middle School. I graduated from St. Lucie West Centennial in 2010. I played baseball in high school. So from there I received a scholarship to Weber International University, where I graduated in 2014 with a business administration degree. I then went on to finish up my certifications, and I became a teacher. This is my 4th year at Savannah Ridge, and I can't be happier, honestly.
Awesome. I did not know you were homegrown.
Yes.
Well, it's always exciting when we have an opportunity to see one of our own come back and then again work with us in the system that they matriculated through. So welcome back home. He's an Eagle, St. Lucie West Centennial High School. There we go. Mr. Bonsignor, tell us how you became the proud principal at Savannah Ridge.
Well, I'm not homegrown, but this is my home now. I came from New York. I was raised in New York, and I taught in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and then I also taught in Miami. I did my master's at the University of Miami, and I fell in love with Florida, and I ended up coming back to St. Lucie County in 2008. I have been at Fairlawn, Samuel Gaines, White City, and now my new home is Savannah Ridge, which I love, and I have the pleasure of working with a great staff and faculty.
So what do you teach, Mr. Moulton, at Savannah Ridge?
I teach 4th grades, all subjects, math, ELA, writing, social studies, and science.
What's the favorite part of your day?
My favorite part of the day, my favorite subject to teach would be math, but I enjoy just working with the students as much as possible.
So you're working in 4th grade. We know they can be a little antsy at times. So how do you plan to engage them in their instruction?
Well, one thing that I do a lot is I use a lot of interactive whiteboards, interactive notebooks. I use a lot of technology as well, Discovery Education. I use Think Central. I also use iReady for just to keep the kids engaged. We use the iReady toolbox with the interactive whiteboards and notebooks, and I use them as check for understandings and also to keep the kids engaged. It really seems to help the students with learning, and they really enjoy it. So I've noticed them enjoying the lesson helps keep them engaged, which everything that I plan, I work for.
So how do you plan technology use?
Well, what I do first is, depending on the standard, for example, with Discovery Education, depending on the science standard, I go in and I look for a video or a tutorial on what we're doing, and I preview the video, and then I come up with the students maybe creating a thinking map while they're watching the video or tutorial. That's Discovery Education. If we use iReady, the iReady toolbox has different tutorials, and they have stopping points to where I plan for the standard, they watch, and then eventually it has a check for understanding for them, and that's really where it really keeps them engaged.
So I'm out and about doing some school visits. I stop into Savannah Ridge on tomorrow. Come to 4th grade, Mr. Michael Moulton's the Teacher of the Year's classroom. What do I see?
Well, tomorrow you will see, depending on what time you're there, if you're there during math time, you'll see us engaged in adding and subtracting fractions. If you come in during writing time, you'll see us engaged in the writing process and getting our students ready for the FSA writing. If you come in during ELA, you could come in during small group time. Daily 5 is what I use in my classroom. And if you come in during social studies, possibly DBQ, where we are also using the writing process and working to get students learning about social studies and science. I could be using Discovery Education. I could be using our new science textbooks. I could be using many different thinking maps just to keep my students engaged and ready to go.
So, Mr. Bonsignor, you have the awesome opportunity, the privilege to see the magic happen every day in Mr. Moulton's class. When you visit, what is it that you see and hear?
Well, I see, depending on what part of the day, when students are interacting with each other in groups, or as we call it, shoulder talk or partner talk, I hear meaningful conversations. And when they are engaged in independent work, it's very quiet and it's very authentic in terms of what they're doing, and they're pretty much into it. And it's interesting to hear the things that they say when they are having peer conversations, but which is very much aligned with the standards and the anchoring that he does, and the things that are pretty much on the board. And it just speaks to you when you go in there. There are no questions to be asked in terms of what are the students doing or what standards they're learning, because the room speaks to you, which is awesome.
Mr. Moulton, have you always known that you wanted to be an educator?
I would say my answer to that would be no. I did not always know that I wanted to be an educator. But I grew up with younger cousins, and I always was pulled towards them to try to, whether it's teach them sports or teach them how to fish or teach them just everyday things. And I realized once I got older that my calling could be working with students, and the educational system is the best place for that. I really like to make a difference in every child's life.
So as you reflect back, any educators along the way that you think probably inspired you?
Oh yes, definitely. The first one that comes to my mind was a 5th grade teacher I had at Weatherby Elementary, Mr. Cornyn. He was like myself. He brought the team part aspect into the classroom. He brought the sport aspect into the classroom, and I really realized that that was something that can grab the kids' attention and that can make it to where they're more like a family. And then another educator would be my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Vincent. He was very, same thing, very hands-on with the kids, very personable. The relationships that he made were awesome. So those two educators definitely influenced me.
So I'm just going to take an opportunity to tell Mr. Cronin and Mr. Vincent, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bonsignor, describe your Teacher of the Year using 3 adjectives. Tell me why those 3.
Passionate, objective, and caring.
And why those 3?
When you go into his classroom, you see how he interacts with the students as if he was their coach. I don't know if you know, he is a coach, baseball coach, and he treats them as if this is our team. You are part of the team, and he talks to them as if he knew them he knew them since they were born, and the students gravitate toward them. And his conversations with them are very objective. He has that objectivity and control in the classroom where you see there's no preference from one student to another, and the students feel that. And there's always that fair piece in terms of what he says is what he means, and he's fair with everyone. And the students see that and feel that in there.
So, Mr. Moulton, what advice would you offer to a new teacher?
Okay. I remember myself as a new teacher, and it can be somewhat overwhelming at times. And one thing I would always say to a new teacher is don't be afraid to ask for help, whether it's from administration or the coaches at the school. They have resources that can help every teacher. Don't be afraid to ask, and also a fellow teacher. So don't be afraid to ask. Everybody is working together at a school, so that is my main advice I would give, is to don't be afraid to ask for something that you need.
What advice do you give to parents to help them ensure that their students will be successful in your room?
Well, one thing I do ask of the parents is in my classroom, accountability is a big part of my classroom, and I also ask the parents to do that as well at home, to make sure their students are doing their homework. They're getting on iReady at home if they possibly can. They are practicing certain skills. Like in 4th grade, multiplication is everywhere through the math curriculum. And working on those foundation mathematical multiplication skills is huge. And if the parents can help with that at home, it will bring their students along, their kids a long way.
Okay. You are naturally now an ambassador for education. As Teacher of the Year, that's a new role. You will have a chance to speak to many people, be it someone at your PTO meetings, your school advisory council meetings. It could be someone that the superintendent brings by. And you got to have a message. What would your message be?
My message would be to always have the kids in thought first. That it's about the kids. It's not necessarily about the teachers. It's not what's best for the teachers. It's about what's best for the students. And if the teachers, not only just teachers, but administration, teachers, everybody that's at the school, if the kids are the first thought, then the kids will have a much more successful time being at school.
Mr. Bonsignor, what makes Mr. Moulton the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
He is not only an educator, but he's also a learner. I have seen that the minute I met him. And I see that the way he interacts with his colleagues during collaborative learning and planning. He would take teachers under his wing. This year, for example, we had a new teacher on board, and he is a great chair now. He has taken her under the wings, and this is only his, 4th year
yes,
here?
4th year.
And I saw that potential last year, and he's rising to the title, really, and he's really part of a lot of committees, and he, just as he said, he always his students are first. It's not about what's best for us necessarily, so it's very authentic.
Teaching, part of committees, taking people under your wings, coaching, keeping kids first. What fuels you?
I think what fuels me is to see when a student or a player that I coach succeeds. And when they succeed and they get that feeling of gratification, and you can see it come across their face when they get that. And that really fuels me to be the best teacher that I possibly can.
So Michael is teaching 4th grade. What would you say to young Michael Moulton in the 4th grade?
I would say to definitely, I was a good student, but there were times where I didn't try necessarily as hard as I could have when I was in the younger grades. And I definitely think that elementary 4th grade, you really, if you can really focus and really take your time with the writing aspect and where the mathematics and the ELA takes place, it really is a building block for you to keep moving up as you go on to middle school and high school, to graduate, and then to hopefully go on to college.
So, as an educator, what do you think has been your biggest impact?
I think my biggest impact as an educator would definitely be the relationships that I make with students. I think the relationships that I make with them makes teaching and makes it much easier for the students. I try to make sure that every relationship that I have with each student is the same. I'm not their friend, but I'm their teacher first. I'm not their friend, but I make them feel very comfortable. And I think that definitely is one of the biggest impacts that I have as a teacher.
Mr. Bunsen, you kind of told us about the time that you have been an educator. So in that time, what do you think has been your biggest accomplishment?
I would say my biggest accomplishment as an educator would be just my students, trying to get them ready to go on in this world. Even though it's only 4th grade, I feel like there are a lot of things that I can accomplish as a teacher for these young kids, such as respect and responsibility and accountability. And I feel like I've had classes in the past that came in and they didn't have those characteristics, but I feel like I really try to bring that out in the students. And I believe that that's something that I work on daily.
So you mentioned that it's 4th grade. So how do you see yourself preparing your students to be college and or career ready?
One thing, like I said, on the very first day, I know I keep saying the word accountability, but on the very first day, that is something that I teach all my students. And if you're accountable for yourself and the actions that you have, it helps them to be more successful moving on to middle school, then moving on to high school, and then graduating high school and hopefully going to college. And the accountability factor, just do what you're supposed to do every day, and you will reach those levels and you will be ready to move on in this life.
So, Mr. Bonsignor, is there anything that we haven't spoken about that you want to add about Mr. Moulton?
Well, I could add that I just see him as a future leader in our district, and we have talked about that because he has that calmness, that team mentality, and people gravitate towards him, and he just has that positive energy that people will learn things from him in a good way, always with the mindset that what's best for students.
Great, great. So let's begin to wrap up some. So, Mr. Moulton, finish this phrase for me. The world needs.
I think the world needs to be more positive about things. There's a lot of negativity in our world, and I think negativity overshadows what you're really, truly capable of. If you're positive, it's okay to fail sometimes, as long as you're positive about it. If you're negative about it, that failure is going to keep happening over and over again. Our world, I just feel that our world needs to stay positive more and not be as negative.
What do you know for sure?
What do I know for sure? I know for sure that I will, every day when I come into work, I will put the students' needs in front of mine. I know no matter what is going on in my life, the students are first. And that's one of the characteristics that I try to do every single day in my classroom is the students really are first.
Okay, let me give you one more. As an educator, what are you most hopeful about?
As an educator, I'm most hopeful about students coming into my classroom and feeling, or not just necessarily my classroom, but students coming into school and wanting to come to school, feeling comfortable at school, not feeling like, oh, this is just school, I don't want to be here. I would rather them feel more hopeful, and I think that we are really moving in that direction if we can, continue to stay positive, and I just really hope that kids feel confident in our...
Mr. Moulton, Mr. Bonsignor, thank you both for coming to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show and letting us celebrate you and share you with our viewers. Congratulations again on your honor. Thank you for putting students first in all that you do, and we know that because of that, you're making the world a bigger and brighter place for those students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. And to our viewers, we want to thank you for joining us as well as we celebrate the Teachers of the Year here in St. Lucie Public Schools and all the wonderful things that they're doing each and every day. We thank you for letting us come into your homes as we celebrate education here and introduce you to some of these 2,100 plus educators that are making St. Lucie County a bigger, better, and brighter place for the 39,000 students that call St. Lucie Public Schools their home. Thank you, and thank you again.